Hey guys, tonight we slip quietly into the opulent, marble-floored triclinium of ancient Rome, where the flickering light of hundreds of oil lamps bounces off polished walls and dances across the smooth surfaces of reclining couches. You stretch out on your side, elbow resting on a silk cushion that probably costs more than your entire apartment, gazing at bronze candelabras shaped like mythological beasts, while servers in crisp white tunics scurry by with platters balanced like sleepy acrobats. And don't get too comfortable. You probably won't survive this dining room's unspoken rules of who reclines where, who speaks when, or why you'd better not spill wine on the senator next to you. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you. I love seeing our sleepy little community light up from all corners of the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your eyes wander over walls painted with frescoes of lounging gods and grapes spilling from cornucopias. This is a triclinium, Rome's grandest dining room, designed for senators to recline while they dined. 3 long couches form a U-shape around a low table, and the best spots closest to the host were fiercely coveted. Servers drift by with dishes piled high with spiced meats and glazed fruits, their quiet footsteps lost beneath the soft strum of a lyre played from the far corner of the room. Historians still argue whether senators really reclined for every meal or just on special occasions. But tonight, you're among Rome's elite, and they definitely want to impress each other. Lying on your left side with your right hand free, you follow the quiet rhythm of a feast where the conversation's flow matters almost as much as the food. To your left, a senator older than the Colosseum's foundations whispers about the rare spices in the honeyed dormice served on gilded platters. His rings catch the lamplight, sending sleepy flashes of gold across his wine cup. Across from you, a rival senator subtly adjusts his posture, trying to look both relaxed and just powerful enough to remind everyone he's important. You watch as servers pour wine from amphorae chilled in snow brought down from distant mountains. Yes, Romans really did that, just to keep their drinks frosty. Between sips, senators exchange slow, measured words about military victories, political maneuvering, or whether the chef's new dormouse glaze outshines last week's efforts. The triclinium becomes a quiet stage where status rises or falls with every bite. A gentle harp note glides through the air, punctuated by the soft clink of silver spoons. A senator across the table raises an eyebrow at your tentative first taste of garum, the fermented fish sauce that perfumes half the dishes on this table. Don't worry. If you're politely holding back a gag, you're probably fitting right in. One senator discreetly dabs his mouth with an embroidered napkin, eyes darting to see if anyone noticed his moment of weakness. You feel the hush of respect ripple through the room. When a server carries in the first platter of dormice, each roasted to perfection, stuffed with herbs, and arranged in neat rows like sleeping mice lined up for a nap. The dormice glisten under the lamps, tiny paws tucked in as if mid-snooze. The senator's eyes sparkle with sleepy glee. This is the night's main event. Overhead, the ceiling soars high with gilded beams carved to look like laurel branches, each curve catching the light and adding to the soft glow that makes every dish look like a masterpiece. Rich tapestries hang between tall windows, fluttering slightly as the night breeze sneaks through gaps in the marble. Somewhere in the shadows, a small fountain trickles, its gentle burble mingling with quiet laughter and murmured toasts. Your attention drifts to a bronze brazier near the corner, sending warm, comforting waves of heat into the room. The senators closest to it recline with blissful half-smiles, cheeks flushed from both wine and the brazier's cozy glow. Every detail of the triclinium, from flickering lamp flames to the warm scent of roasted dormice drifting on the air, conspires to lull you deeper into a sleepy sense of timelessness. A senator shares a sly joke about a rival who once fell asleep mid-feast, face first into a platter of stuffed dormice. The soft chuckles ripple around the couches, blending with the harp's gentle notes. One senator's head bobs like he might repeat the same mistake tonight. You're grateful for the chance to simply observe, letting the lull of quiet conversation and candlelight carry you deeper into this dreamy Roman world. The night stretches on, and you sink more deeply into the silk cushions, mesmerized by the lazy winks of gold jewelry and the soft, sleepy glow of oil lamps. The triclinium's hushed symphony of music, murmurs, and distant fountains wraps around you like a gentle lullaby, promising a night of secrets, stories, and the oddest little delicacy ever to grace a senator's plate. The soft glow of the triclinium follows you as you lean back, watching servers carry in another round of glistening platters. Tonight's sleepy star is a dish so peculiar it borders on surreal. The humble dormouse, transformed into a symbol of elite Roman dining. You trace the origins of this tiny rodent's rise to culinary fame, wondering how something so small and squeaky found its way into the gilded hearts of senators. Your eyes drift to the table's centerpiece, a tall silver stand where roasted dormice are carefully arranged in concentric circles, each mouse perched as if posing for a luxurious portrait. Historians still argue whether dormice were truly as popular as surviving recipes suggest, or if they became exaggerated symbols of decadence in Roman satire. But there's no question that for Rome's wealthiest, a platter of plump dormice announced both their chef's skill and their own ability to afford the unusual. Dormice, known as glisse, weren't your everyday backyard pests. These creatures were a different, sleepier species found across Europe's forests, and Romans found their taste mild, their texture tender, and their possibilities for stuffing and seasoning endless. Even better, dormice were small enough to be served whole, a perfect bite-sized morsel to delight guests without forcing them to break conversation with awkward chewing. Ancient fine dining, Roman style. One senator raises a dormouse delicately by its crispy tail, inspecting it with sleepy satisfaction before popping it into his mouth. The trick, he explains between chews, is to get just the right balance of honey, pepper, and herbs, so each bite explodes with sweet and savory notes. Another senator nearby nods solemnly, eyes closing as he savors his own dormouse like a connoisseur sampling fine wine. You hear murmurs about the earliest records of Romans eating dormice, which date back to the Republic era, when politicians and generals brought the trend home after campaigns in territories where dormouse eating was a rustic practice. Over time, what started as peasant food transformed into a status symbol served on silver platters. Because if there's one thing senators knew, it was how to turn humble ingredients into culinary flexes. A sleepy joke drifts across the couches. Why did the dormouse climb the olive tree? To avoid being stuffed with honey and served on a senator's plate. The ripple of laughter is soft and slow, like a quiet wave across the candlelit room. A server pauses to refill goblets, the wine's deep red swirling lazily as senators lean back, satisfied. The senators discuss where the best dormice come from. Some claim the forests near Etruria produce the fattest, while others swear by the dormice of southern Gaul, who supposedly munch on sweeter acorns, giving their meat a delicate, nutty flavor. You're struck by the sleepy intensity of these debates, as if the fate of the Republic hinged on the precise origin of these bite-sized delicacies. Nearby, a server presents a small, handwritten menu on a wax tablet, each line describing dormouse variations with the same reverence modern chefs reserve for truffles or caviar. Stuffed with minced pork, rolled in poppy seeds, or wrapped in fig leaves before roasting. The senators peruse the options with dreamy expressions, eyes glinting with the sleepy excitement of gourmands, savoring the night's possibilities. You catch a whiff of the dormouse glaze wafting past, notes of honey, a hint of smoky pepper, and the subtle warmth of crushed coriander. Your stomach rumbles softly, surprising you, since you never expected to find the scent of roasted rodent so enticing. One senator smirks as if reading your mind, raising his goblet in a slow toast. To the humble dormouse, small in size, mighty in prestige, historians still debate whether dormouse feasts were mostly confined to the upper echelons of society, or whether the middle class occasionally splurged on these tiny luxuries. Some evidence suggests more modest households would roast dormice for special occasions. But the elaborate stuffed versions with imported spices were undeniably the province of Rome's most powerful and richest. A senator begins to recount a tale of the legendary feast thrown by Lucullus, the famous general known for his extravagant banquets. Supposedly, Lucullus served dozens of dormouse dishes, each stuffed with progressively rarer ingredients, from saffron to black pepper carried overland from distant lands. Guests dozed off on couches as servers glided through the triclinium, balancing plates of the tiniest, fanciest rodents anyone had ever eaten. As another platter drifts past, a hush settles over the table. Senators quietly weighing the night's offerings, like sleepy judges at a rodent beauty contest. Every shiny eye and crispy paw speaks of hours of careful preparation, and each senator knows the dormouse's value lies not just in its taste, but in the quiet prestige it brings to the feast. The night deepens, shadows lengthening across marble floors as you sink deeper into your cushions. Oil lamps cast lazy halos of light, turning the dormice into glistening jewels on silver platters. The air hums with soft conversation, the sleepy rhythm of a feast that never seems to end, where each dormouse carries a story of wealth, power, and Rome's insatiable appetite for the curious and the extravagant. The flicker of oil lamps dances across your half-lidded eyes as you watch a pair of servants slip into the triclinium carrying curious clay jars, each big enough to cradle a small cat. These are the famed gliraria, special dormouse-keeping vessels where Rome's favorite rodents were pampered until plump enough for a senator's plate. Tonight, you drift into the quiet world of the glirarium's secrets, where dormice spent their last days in drowsy luxury. A hair-thin crack runs down one glirarium's side, revealing tiny air holes drilled to keep the dormice breathing while trapped inside their cozy darkness. You peer closer and see faint scratch marks around the inner rim, evidence of countless tiny paws trying and failing to climb their clay prison walls. The jar's interiors were coated in smooth plaster, making them too slippery for dormice to escape, ensuring the rodents stayed snug and stress-free, well, stress-free until dinner time. Historians still argue whether Romans invented the glirarium themselves or borrowed the practice from Etruscans or Gauls, who also enjoyed a good dormouse snack. What's clear is the Romans perfected it. Each jar's narrow mouth kept the animals from squeezing out, and tiny ledges inside gave the dormice places to nest and, more importantly, eat. Because Romans didn't just catch dormice, they fattened them. Servants dropped handfuls of acorns, chestnuts, or sweet chestnut flour into the gliraria, encouraging the dormice to gorge themselves while they snoozed away in the dark. The fatter the dormouse, the more it impressed dinner guests. It was a sleepy rodent version of foie gras, one that delighted senators while scandalizing modern sensibilities. A maid quietly lifts the lid of a glirarium for you to peek inside. The air smells faintly of damp earth and crushed nuts, like the forest floor after rain. You imagine the dormice curled up together in their final nap, bellies stuffed, oblivious to the feast awaiting them. It's both oddly peaceful and slightly unsettling, like discovering your cozy bedroom is also a five-star restaurant's back room. The senators, of course, never dirtied their hands with gliraria. Their slaves and cooks handled every step. In sleepy kitchens tucked behind grand dining halls, workers checked the jars daily, ensuring dormice had fresh bedding of moss or straw. and enough nuts to keep growing round and tender. The best kitchens boasted whole rooms lined with gliraria, each rodent jar labeled like fine wine vintages. You hear whispers of kitchen competitions, chefs bragging about how quickly they could plump up a dormouse without making the meat too fatty. Some claim to add honey or spiced milk to the rodents' diets for a more delicate flavor. Others insisted on special nuts, said to give the meat a subtle sweetness. You almost chuckle at the idea of rival chefs huddled around jars, squinting at sleeping rodents like sleepy sommeliers judging aroma and consistency. A soft laugh ripples through the triclinium as a senator recounts how a rival once gifted him a glirarium filled with skinny, half-starved dormice, an insult delivered with the most Roman subtlety imaginable. The slight sparked a months-long feud carried out in coded dinner invitations and passive-aggressive toasts, proving dormice could ruin friendships as easily as they won favor. A servant demonstrates how the jars were gently rolled on their sides to encourage dormice to exercise just enough to keep muscles firm. A few turns each day, and the rodents stayed plump without growing listless. It's a detail so precise you wonder if the average senator ever knew, or if they simply marveled at how every dormouse bite seemed perfectly tender. The night air drifts in through open archways, carrying the scent of cool marble and crushed laurel leaves. You lean back, imagining the quiet darkness of a storeroom filled with gliraria, each one a tiny kingdom of sleeping dormice growing plumper under the watchful eyes of kitchen slaves. The hush of the triclinium blends with this vision until you feel the sleepy pulse of a world where luxury began not in the dining hall, but in the shadows behind it. Historians still debate whether gliraria were status symbols themselves, or just practical necessities. But surviving examples unearthed in villas suggest even these jars were crafted with quiet care. Some bore delicate decorations, small etched vines or laurel wreaths, transforming simple clay into objects of understated beauty, even if few ever glimpse them outside the kitchens. A senator raises his goblet and praises the glirarium's magic, slurring slightly from too much wine. The jar that turns a scrawny mouse into Rome's greatest delight. His words echo in the soft night, and you realize how deeply this sleepy little rodent shaped the dining culture of an empire. Oil lamps burn lower as shadows stretch long and slow across the marble floors. The servers carry the empty gliraria away, the soft clink of clay lids marking the end of tonight's secret reveal. You nestle deeper into your cushions, lulled by the quiet power of these ancient jars, where Rome's tiniest delicacies began their final, drowsy journey toward the senator's candlelit plates. The gentle shuffle of servants draws your attention back to the dining table, where senators lean forward in sleepy anticipation as the main event of the night arrives. Stuffed dormice, each plump rodent transformed into a culinary marvel, thanks to recipes passed quietly from kitchen to kitchen. Tonight, you slip into the warm haze of Roman kitchens to uncover exactly how honey, herbs, and poppy seeds turned dormice into status symbol bites worth every denarius. You watch a server place a dish of dormice before a senator, the aroma drifting across the triclinium like a soft, spiced lullaby. Each dormouse is slit open and carefully stuffed with a mixture of minced pork, finely chopped dormouse liver, crushed black pepper, a pinch of ground myrtle berries, and a generous drizzle of honey. The tiny bodies are sewn shut with thin twine, brushed with more honey, and roasted until the skin crisps to a golden perfection. The result is a tiny package bursting with savory, sweet, and herbal notes. Historians still argue whether honey was used purely to impress guests or if it helped mask any lingering gaminess in dormouse meat. Regardless of intention, recipes preserved by Roman writers make it clear that honey wasn't optional. It was the crowning glory of any high-status dormouse dish. You catch the scent now, thick, floral, and warm. The kind of aroma that instantly slows your breathing and draws you deeper into the room's sleepy spell. A maid shares an odd trick used by Rome's best cooks. sprinkling poppy seeds over the dormouse just before serving. The seeds clung to the sticky glaze, adding a delicate crunch and a slightly nutty flavor. Some senators swore the poppy seeds also helped them drift off to sleep faster. A bedtime bonus. Though historians debate whether any poppy-induced drowsiness was wishful thinking or a subtle culinary truth, you lean closer to a senator's plate as he slices into the dormouse, the tiny incision revealing a steaming center glistening with melted fat and honey. He raises a bite to his lips, eyes closing in sleepy bliss. Across the table, a rival senator waits for his reaction, like a cat stalking a mouse, hoping the first taste will reveal any culinary misstep. But the older man exhales a slow, contented sigh, the softest murmur of approval drifting across the candlelit table. A hush settles in the room, as others follow suit, each senator slicing into their dormouse with quiet reverence. The only sounds are the faint clicks of knives against silver plates and the slow, satisfied exhalations of men whose careers and reputations often balanced on the perfection of a single dish. You realize with sleepy awe that, in Rome, the quality of stuffed dormice could open doors or quietly slam them shut. One server describes the careful layering of flavors. Before stuffing, dormice were marinated in a light bath of diluted vinegar, infused with herbs like savory, thyme, or rue. This tenderized the meat and infused it with subtle, almost floral notes. After marinating, cooks patted the dormice dry before proceeding with the stuffing, every step deliberate, unhurried, and designed to coax the most delicate flavors from these tiny creatures. The senators begin to trade sleepy jokes about who served the biggest dormouse tonight. A senator to your right boasts of his dormouse's plumpness as a sign of the kitchen's loyalty. His neighbor counters with a teasing jab about how only second-rate chefs stuff their dormice too loosely. Soft laughter ripples through the triclinium, blending with the gentle plucking of a lyre drifting in from a distant alcove. A maid refills goblets with wine infused with myrrh and rose petals, the subtle floral notes harmonizing perfectly with the sweet, savory dormouse bites. The senators raise slow toasts, praising the harmony of flavors with sleepy, satisfied smiles. You wonder if there's ever been a moment more decadent or more oddly peaceful than this quiet midnight feast of stuffed dormice and perfumed wine. Historians still debate the recipe's origins, with some suggesting imported Eastern spices like long pepper or cinnamon occasionally found their way into dormouse stuffing. Others argue Roman cooks relied solely on local herbs and honey, preferring familiar flavors that reminded senators of Italy's rolling hills and sleepy country estates. A server demonstrates how the stuffed dormice are carefully plated, each one nestled on a bed of fresh bay leaves to perfume the dish further and to keep the tiny bodies from rolling around during their grand entrance. The bright green leaves contrast beautifully with the golden brown dormice, turning every plate into a miniature, edible still life. The air grows thicker with the warmth of roasted meats and slow-burning oil lamps. Senators recline deeper into their couches, their eyelids drooping as the last bites of stuffed dormice disappear from silver plates. Each man wears a soft, dreamy smile, lulled into quiet contentment by the comforting embrace of rich flavors and the gentle, unhurried pace of the feast. You settle back into your own cushions, imagining the dozens of hands, hours of careful work, and centuries of culinary tradition wrapped up in every stuffed dormouse. As sleepy music drifts closer, you feel the magic of the night deepen, knowing each perfectly prepared bite carried the weight of Roman ambition, artistry, and the quiet promise of dreams sweetened by honey and poppy seeds. The soft shadows of the triclinium stretch longer as servants clear the last plates of sticky dormice, replacing them with fresh linens and gleaming utensils. You shift on your cushion, feeling the slow, drowsy gravity of the night as the senators ready themselves for the next quiet ritual. The rules of dining etiquette that defined every senator's reputation as surely as their victories in the Senate. Tonight, you slip into the delicate choreography of posture, timing, and the unspoken code of Roman feasting. A dance that required as much skill as swordplay. You quickly learn that slouching too deeply or reclining too casually could signal disrespect, while leaning too far forward suggested either overeagerness or social insecurity. The trick, a sleepy-eyed senator confides, is to angle your torso just so, relaxed but attentive, showing both refinement and ease. Historians still argue whether these exact posture rules were passed down through formal instruction or quietly absorbed by observation. But everyone agrees a senator's ability to recline elegantly spoke volumes about his breeding. Tonight, you see each man shift minutely, adjusting his elbow on plush cushions, aligning knees just so, and letting his head tilt at a perfect angle, like a flock of sleepy flamingos settling in for the night. You notice how servers wait for a senator's subtle nod before presenting the next dish, gliding forward without a word. The quiet efficiency of these movements is mesmerizing, like watching shadows slip across moonlit marble. One maid reveals a secret. The best servers memorize their patrons' preferences for plate placement. Left-handed senators expected platters turned at just the right angle, while right-handers required everything reversed. Serving incorrectly could lead to sleepy but scathing stares that ruined a servant's standing overnight. As you drift deeper into the soft night, you realize conversation was another delicate art. Senators avoided speaking with full mouths, instead pausing between small, careful bites to share slow, measured stories. Interrupting a higher-ranking guest was as dangerous as insulting the emperor himself. The entire room's mood could shift like a sudden breeze if a junior senator misspoke or dared to challenge an elder too directly. You overhear a discussion about proper toast etiquette. When the host raised his goblet, all others must mirror him immediately or risk quiet censure. A senator with eyes half closed recounts a night when a guest failed to notice a toast in time, sparking a cascade of awkward stares, frozen smiles, and a cold silence that lingered long after the last dormouse was eaten. The tableware itself held its own sleepy etiquette. Bronze or silver spoons were only for certain sauces. Knives carved meat, but were never used to point, gesture, or threaten, no matter how heated debates grew. Small plates allowed guests to taste a dish without hoarding it, a mark of graciousness. And sharing bites with a neighbor signaled alliances forming in the shadows of flickering lamplight. A hairdresser, still lingering at the triclinium's edge, mentions the quiet rules of conversation volume. Speak too loudly, and you were deemed boorish. Too softly, and you seemed scheming or cowardly. The sweet spot was a gentle, almost musical murmur, punctuated by small laughs and appreciative sighs. So your words floated among the diners like sleepy whispers carried on warm air. Historians still debate whether etiquette at these dinners shifted under different emperors. Did stricter reigns force stiffer formality? Or did relaxed rulers let senators lounge like cats in the sun? Surviving letters hint at both. But tonight you sense an atmosphere of indulgent looseness, where rules are observed with the unhurried grace of men confident in their own importance. A senator idly twirls his goblet, the wine catching the lamplight in dreamy crimson reflections. Across from him, another adjusts the folds of his toga to ensure it drapes over one shoulder just so, revealing enough to signal comfort, but never so much as to seem careless. You marvel at the sleepy precision of every movement, knowing each subtle gesture reinforced unspoken hierarchies and whispered rivalries. The soft strum of a lyre drifts across the room, the player's fingers moving slowly, notes falling like warm raindrops onto the marble floor. The music weaves through the quiet etiquette, underlining the soft sighs of senators shifting on their couches and the slow clink of silver against polished plates. As the hour grows later, the mood thickens into a syrupy calm. The gentle glow of oil lamps turned senators' faces golden, their expressions serene, their eyelids drooping. Every aspect of the feast, food, conversation, posture, melts together into a single, sleepy performance, one in which you feel yourself drifting deeper, matching the slow, even breaths of the room. A server carefully adjusts the placement of one senator's pillow so his head remains just above the table's edge, because nodding off in a graceless slump could damage a reputation faster than any political blunder. The senator smiles faintly in thanks, eyes fluttering shut as the music winds through the final moments of the night's etiquette dance. You nestle further into your cushion, the slow pulse of the room wrapping around you like a soft, timeless blanket, knowing you've witnessed not just dinner, but an unspoken ritual where every bite and breath was part of a grand, sleepy ballet of Roman power. The glow of the oil lamps hovers like a soft halo above the senators' heads, and you sink deeper into your cushion as the talk drifts to what everyone here truly craves, the power signaled by every tiny, roasted dormouse placed on the table. Tonight, you slip into the sleepy realization of how dormice became more than dinner. They were edible trophies, symbols of wealth and prestige that proved a senator's status without a single word. A senator near you adjusts his robe with slow satisfaction as servants lay a fresh platter of honey-glazed dormice before him. His rivals glance sidelong, recognizing the quiet message. Only the wealthiest kitchens could keep a steady supply of fattened dormice, raised in perfect darkness until they reached the plumpness that whispered, "I can afford things you can't." The entire triclinium seems to lean in, eyes reflecting the golden lamplight and the soft sheen of the dormice's crisped skins. Historians still argue whether dormice were once an everyday food for rural Romans, or whether they always carried a whiff of luxury. Some surviving texts suggest rustic farmers enjoyed dormice roasted simply over open fires. But in the city, senators transformed these small animals into symbols of opulence. Because if you had the money to feed tiny rodents acorns until they burst, you had the money to do anything. The senator's voice purrs through the quiet air as he explains how he sourced his dormice from a distant estate known for its nut orchards, bragging they were sweeter and softer than any others in Rome. His words drift lazily, but the gleam in his eye is sharp, and you sense his rivals planning how to outdo him with their own rodent delicacies at the next feast. You notice how the servers set dormouse platters on tiny gilded stands, raising them above other dishes so the small creatures almost seem to float, catching every flicker of lamplight. It's a subtle trick to make them look even more desirable. A sleepy game of culinary theater senators knew well. One senator smirks as he notes how dormice served on low platters seemed less impressive, a quiet dig at hosts with weaker kitchen budgets. A maid reveals that some senators went so far as to dye dormouse skins golden with a thin wash of saffron, turning them into glittering symbols of excess. Historians still debate how common this practice was, but even the rumor of golden dormice kept senators awake at night, planning feasts that could outshine the rest of Rome. You catch the soft lull of conversation drifting toward other symbols of status, exotic spices, elaborate drinking horns, and marble fountains gurgling in private courtyards. But the dormouse reigns supreme. It's both delicate and labor-intensive, requiring weeks of preparation that only the richest could afford. A senator raises a dormouse by its tail, his sleepy grin making it clear he knows he holds more than food. He holds proof of his power. He holds proof of. The air grows heavier as servants refill goblets with mulsum, sweet wine laced with herbs that swirl lazily in the lamplight. Senators recline deeper, eyes half closed, savoring each sip as they imagine their dormouse-laden reputations spreading across Rome like whispers on a midnight breeze. A quiet anecdote unfolds about a senator who once sent a tray of the plumpest dormice to the emperor himself. earning a promotion the next morning. Whether true or not, the story floats through the triclinium, drawing sleepy laughter and soft sighs of envy. Everyone aware that sometimes power arrived on 4 tiny paws. Nearby, a senator recounts how his family used dormice to secure alliances, gifting jars of fattened rodents to future sons-in-law. You picture a nervous young man receiving a glirarium as a proposal gift, forced to smile politely while counting the plump dormice as if each one were a coin of approval. You feel the quiet tension of rivalries pulsing beneath the sleepy calm. Every senator here gauging who has the best dormice, who serves them most lavishly, who secures whispered admiration. In a world where armies marched and votes swayed on rumor alone, these little creatures became silent weapons in the battle for influence. The soft strum of a lyre floats over the triclinium, each note like a gentle heartbeat against the hush. The senators close their eyes, drifting in the warmth of the wine, the weight of power, and the cozy certainty that tonight they've proven their place among Rome's quiet elite. Historians still puzzle over why dormice, and not some grander animal, became the ultimate sign of Roman culinary luxury. But here in the flickering dark, you understand. Their delicate size, their long preparation, their unobtrusive glamour all make them perfect symbols of subtle power. Elegant proof that true influence lies not in thunderous declarations, but in the soft crunch of a perfectly stuffed dormouse. As the last notes of music linger, you stretch into your cushion, eyelids drooping with the dreamy knowledge that tonight you've seen how something as small as a dormouse carried the weight of a senator's ambition, turning the softest bite into a silent roar of prestige. The lamplight glows warm and low across the triclinium as your gaze drifts to the next platters arriving. This time, not just dormice, but a parade of other delicate, bite-sized delights. Tonight, you slip into the soft obsession Romans had with small foods, discovering how miniature morsels became the sleepy stars of grand banquets, each one a subtle testament to a host's wealth and whimsy. A maid places a tray of songbirds roasted on skewers beside the dormice, their tiny forms crisp and golden, each bite promising a brief burst of rich flavor. The senator's eyes flicker with appreciation, but they return again and again to the dormice, because among the empire's endless finger foods, none had the quiet prestige of these pudgy rodents. Historians still argue whether Rome's passion for tiny dishes was practical, allowing guests to sample countless flavors without filling up, or simply an elite game of showing off the sheer variety a kitchen could muster. Tonight, it's clear each miniature dish works like a sleepy spell, slowing conversation to soft murmurs punctuated by careful, deliberate bites. You lean closer as a server sets down another tray, holding fig-sized dumplings stuffed with minced fish and herbs, glistening under a drizzle of olive oil. Their delicate shapes mirror the dormice, reinforcing Rome's love of foods that could be popped into the mouth in a single, elegant motion. No knives, no awkward chewing, no reason to interrupt the dreamy cadence of whispered politics. One senator, cheeks flushed from wine, describes his private chef's latest creation: tiny loaves of honey bread, no larger than a thumb, each filled with nuts and soft cheese. He holds one up with sleepy pride, the senator's nodding as if he's revealed a state secret. You almost giggle at how seriously everyone considers these dainty foods. But the hush of the triclinium makes every crumb feel momentous. A rival senator responds with a soft boast about quail eggs dyed in rich saffron yellow, served nested in tiny silver cups. The plates pass from couch to couch, each senator popping an egg into his mouth with the slow, precise grace of a priest conducting a midnight ritual. One man raises an eyebrow when a neighbor eats 2 in a row, proof that even small foods carried big etiquette. Historians note that wealthy Romans developed entire courses around these miniature delights, sometimes lasting hours as servers glided through the room with plates of olives, nuts, and cheese slices so thin they melted on the tongue. These sleepy spreads showcased not only culinary talent, but the host's patience. Only a kitchen with dozens of skilled hands could prepare so many tiny, perfect bites. A sleepy senator describes how his father's famous feasts featured stuffed dates arranged like gems, each filled with crushed peppered walnuts and drizzled with wine syrup. You imagine the quiet awe of guests leaning in to examine a platter sparkling with sticky jewel-toned fruit, eyes widening at the lavish detail poured into something so small. You catch the faint scent of cinnamon as a maid carries a tray of candied ginger pieces the size of pebbles, each carefully cut and dusted with sugar. The aroma drifts through the triclinium like a warm blanket, drawing contented sighs from senators who pop the candy into their mouths, eyes closing as sweet heat seeps across their sleepy tongues. A gentle joke ripples through the couches, that the only thing more dangerous than serving dull conversation at a banquet was serving clumsy finger foods. Soft laughter bubbles up as senators recall past feasts ruined by olives slipping from fingers, or guests spraying wine from ill-timed coughs. Tonight, everyone moves with dreamy precision, each small bite handled with near religious care. Historians still debate whether this obsession with miniature foods influenced later European court cuisines. But many see Roman banquets as the distant ancestors of elaborate hors d'oeuvres and amuse-bouches served centuries later. Here, the art of tiny dishes was refined not for efficiency, but for the gentle theater of watching powerful men balance power, wit, and food with sleepy elegance. A senator gestures for more dormice, his soft request like a ripple across a still pond. The dormice arrive nestled among the other small treats, their delicate bodies once again commanding attention even among dozens of luxurious morsels. You see how every small bite elevates the feast. But dormice remain the silent stars, each one a soft, edible jewel glinting in the lamplight. As music drifts from the shadows, notes as light as the dishes themselves, you recline further into your cushion, heart slowing to match the room's dreamy pulse. You marvel at how each tiny dish, whether roasted dormouse, jeweled date, or spiced quail egg, reveals a world of quiet ambition, artistry, and the timeless truth that sometimes the smallest things hold the greatest power. The final crumbs are cleared as oil lamps flicker lower, the senator's breathing softening into sleepy sighs. The triclinium settles into a hush, every man cradled by the gentle knowledge that tonight's banquet of miniature wonders confirmed his place among Rome's most refined and most quietly powerful. The night grows deeper, and the triclinium's soft lamplight seems almost to pulse with each slow, contented breath from the reclining senators. You shift slightly, sleepy curiosity piqued by the subtle glances they exchange, eyes flicking across platters, measuring every detail of tonight's feast. Here, in the hush between sips of wine, you slip into the quiet rivalries that simmer beneath Rome's most opulent banquets, where every dish becomes a whispered contest of pride. A servant glides past, carrying another platter of perfectly stuffed dormice, the aroma trailing like a warm lullaby. You catch the subtle narrowing of a senator's eyes as he realizes his dormouse appears a touch smaller than his neighbor's. His jaw tenses just enough to betray the sleepy game unfolding beneath the gentle hum of lyres and soft laughter. Historians still argue how open these rivalries were. Did senators drop cutting remarks cloaked in honeyed words? Or did the deadliest battles happen in silence, through side glances and politely raised eyebrows? Tonight, you sense both. Soft compliments laced with challenge, sleepy jokes edged with pointed reminders of whose kitchen, estate, or chef outdid the rest. A senator leans back, voice drifting like smoke as he recounts the time he imported dormice from distant Illyrian forests. So plump, he claims, they couldn't fit in the usual gliraria. His rivals murmur polite astonishment, but you sense the slow burn of envy behind their sleepy nods. Another senator counters with a languid story of his chef's new method for marinating dormice in almond milk, a technique said to make the meat softer than any rival's offering. The senator's eyes gleam as soft barbs slip into conversation, a compliment that hints at another's outdated recipes, a sleepy observation that a certain platter looks suspiciously reheated. You realize the triclinium is more than a dining room. It's an arena where reputation, alliances, and grudges are forged and tested one delicate bite at a time. A maid leans in to clear empty plates, eyes wide as she listens to the senator's whispered one-upmanship. She later recounts the stories to the kitchen staff, who wager quietly on which senator will land the night's most subtle insult. Bets placed on words gentler than a drifting feather, yet sharp enough to leave reputations bruised. One senator raises his goblet with a sleepy smirk, praising another's dormouse seasoning in a tone just sweet enough to sound sincere, yet dripping with the unspoken suggestion that the dish lacks sophistication. Soft laughter ripples through the couches like a gentle breeze, the senators swaying slightly with their own drowsy amusement. Historians still debate whether these rivalries sometimes tipped into outright sabotage, servants slipping hints to rival kitchens or hosts arranging seating to isolate enemies. Surviving letters hint at alliances shifting overnight after banquets, where one senator's dormice outshone another's, and you sense how easily sleepy pleasantries could harden into simmering feuds. The liar's song drifts slower as a senator recounts a feast gone wrong. A rival's dormice served too dry, the sauce scorched and bitter. The humiliation spread through Rome faster than any decree, and the unfortunate host spent months rebuilding his social standing. Senators chuckle softly, each savoring the quiet comfort that tonight, at least, their own dormice glisten perfectly beneath the flickering lamps. A maid shares a hushed anecdote of a feast where a senator, desperate to impress, ordered dormice dusted with powdered gold. While the rodents sparkled beautifully, the taste was bland, leaving guests nodding politely but whispering later of wasted extravagance. You smile at the sleepy moral. Even in Rome, sparkle alone couldn't save a dish. One senator sighs with gentle satisfaction as his rivals lean closer to admire his platter. His dormice look plumper, the glaze thicker, the scent richer. You sense the soft weight of his victory, his sleepy grin saying what words don't need to. Tonight, he wins. Around him, other senators tilt their heads, smiles fixed, but eyes cool, already planning tomorrow's countermove. A soft chorus of snores begins to rise from the farthest couches as older senators drift off mid-feast, heads resting on cushions, arms slipping from goblets that gleam in the lamplight. Even here, in the quiet final stretch of the banquet, the remaining senators trade subtle looks, knowing who stayed sharp longest and who succumbed first to wine and sleep. You feel the sleepy tension ease as the night grows softer. The rivalries melt back into warm comfort, the senators relaxing into shared drowsiness. For now, the glances soften, hands loosen around goblets, and the lullaby of the lyre blends with the hush of Rome's midnight air. The triclinium sinks into a dreamy calm, but you know beneath each drowsy smile lies a mind already plotting the next feast, when dormice will again become tiny pawns in a grand sleepy game of power, pride, and quiet one-upmanship. A gentle hush settles deeper over the triclinium as servers drift in with trays of tiny bowls, each brimming with thick, aromatic sauces shimmering in lamplight like pools of midnight. Tonight, you sink into the sleepy magic of Roman spices and sauces. How these warm, exotic flavors turned simple dormice into the empire's most luxurious bites and filled grand dining rooms with the scent of distant worlds. A maid ladles a dark sauce over a dormouse, the thick liquid gliding over crispy skin in a slow, syrupy ribbon. The air grows richer instantly. Notes of crushed black pepper, sweet honey, and the deep, earthy warmth of ground coriander drift across the couches. Senators' eyelids flutter at the scent, heads tipping back in dreamy approval. You catch the sleepy sparkle in their eyes as the aromas whisper of trade routes, power, and the wealth needed to afford spices carried from halfway across the known world. Historians still argue how widely spices like cinnamon, cloves, and long pepper made it to Roman kitchens, or whether their presence was limited to Rome's most elite. Some ancient texts describe dishes drenched in spice blends that would rival modern curries, while others suggest cooks reserved these expensive treasures for the quiet triumph of impressing guests with rare flavors. You lean in as a senator swirls a dormouse through a bowl of liquamen, a thick, fermented fish sauce more precious than gold in many Roman kitchens. The smell is sharp, salty, and deeply savory, a flavor that made even simple dishes taste like something fit for Jupiter himself. Another senator prefers his dormouse dipped in defrutum, a sticky wine reduction simmered down until it gleams like black onyx, adding sweet, tart notes that linger like a slow lullaby on the tongue. A sleepy chuckle drifts from one couch as a senator recounts the first time he tried mixing honey, ground cumin, and vinegar for his dormice, only to end up with a dish so pungent the entire triclinium spent the evening politely stifling coughs. The memory earns slow nods from others who've learned, sometimes painfully, that Rome's love of bold flavors required a careful, patient hand. A maid refills tiny sauce bowls arranged like a painter's palette. Sharp mustard paste glowing pale yellow, herbed vinegar steeped with tarragon and thyme, a soft, creamy cheese sauce spiked with garlic. Each senator selects dips for his dormice as if choosing brushstrokes for a masterpiece, their movements slow, precise, and deliberate. Historians note the Romans were among the first in the West to turn cooking into high art. Sauces didn't just enhance food. They announced the host's education, worldliness, and connections to distant spice markets. Tonight, you watch sauces turn the sleepy feast into a quiet symphony of contrasting flavors. Each bite a different note in a grand culinary song. A sleepy-eyed senator raises his goblet to toast the Silk Road merchants who made this banquet possible. His voice trails off into a soft laugh. But the truth lingers in the lamplight. These sauces wouldn't exist without caravans crossing scorching deserts and fragile ships braving stormy seas. Every spicy bite of dormouse connected Rome's elite to traders and kingdoms beyond their wildest dreams. You catch a whiff of asafoetida, a resin so potent it drifts through the room like a sharp, garlicky cloud. The senators wrinkle their noses before leaning forward eagerly, knowing just a pinch transforms dormouse stuffing into a bold, unforgettable flavor. One senator brags his chef uses only asafoetida from distant Parthia, smuggled in ceramic jars sealed with wax. A soft anecdote surfaces about a senator who once misjudged the balance of his sauces, turning an entire banquet into a sweaty, tongue-burning ordeal that left guests fanning themselves with dinner menus. His misstep lived on in sleepy jokes whispered across Rome's elite circles for years. A reminder that in the triclinium, flavors could make or break reputations. The lyre's quiet music carries notes of rosemary and black pepper as the air grows heavier, each sleepy breath filled with hints of sweetness, tang, and the soft burn of exotic spices. Senators recline deeper into their cushions, eyes fluttering shut after each slow bite of dormouse dipped in warm, fragrant sauce. Historians still puzzle over the precise recipes of these lost sauces. Some preserved in snippets of ancient texts, but many drifting into silence with the cooks who created them. Yet tonight, you taste their lingering ghosts in the sleepy air, feeling how every swirl of sauce told a story of empire, ambition, and the quiet joy of blending worlds together in a single, perfect bite. As the final bowls are carried away, you nestle further into your cushion, eyelids heavy with the warm comfort of flavors born of oceans, mountains, and the delicate patience of cooks who turned each dormouse into a soft, sleepy masterpiece worthy of Rome's grandest tables. The hush of the triclinium deepens as you drift into the shadows of the palace kitchens, where the real magic of Rome's dormouse feasts unfolded long before the first platter reached a senator's couch. Tonight, you slip into the sleepy world behind the feast, following the quiet rush of servants and cooks who labored in the soft glow of flickering braziers to turn small rodents into culinary legends. You hear the soft crackle of olive wood fires, smell the warm, comforting aroma of roasting meat, and watch maids hurry through stone corridors balancing platters piled high with glistening dormice. Their footsteps are quick but measured. Every dish must arrive piping hot, yet presented with unhurried grace. In the kitchen's warm heart, time moves like syrup, fast enough to keep food from burning, slow enough to perfect every detail. Historians still argue how many staff a grand Roman household kept on hand just to handle banquets like this. Some scrolls suggest dozens of kitchen workers, each assigned to tiny, specific tasks. One to pluck and clean dormice, another to prepare stuffing, a third to roast them just right, and still others to craft sauces or garnish plates with fresh bay leaves and edible flowers. A sleepy-eyed cook shows you a clay bowl of minced pork, spiced wine, and crushed herbs, the rich stuffing spooned delicately into each dormouse's small cavity. Her hands move with unhurried confidence, pressing tiny stitches of twine through the rodent's sides to keep every bite of filling perfectly in place. She hums a soft tune, her voice blending with the quiet hiss of fat dripping onto coals, creating a lullaby of crackles and melody. Nearby, a group of servants turn a rack of dormice suspended over gentle flames, each rodent slowly browning until its skin crackles to a deep golden sheen. A young boy uses a brush made of rosemary sprigs to baste them with honey, the herb's aroma rising like a soft, sleepy cloud with every stroke. A maid recounts how timing was everything. Too long on the fire and dormice grew dry and tough. Too little and they stayed pale and chewy. Perfectly roasted dormice required quiet focus, an art passed from cook to apprentice through years of long nights and whispered corrections. Historians note that while senators lounged, the kitchen was a place of hushed urgency, where even one failed dormouse could spark a storm of curses and send plates crashing into walls. But tonight, the only sounds you hear are sleepy murmurs of praise as each dormouse emerges glistening. The kitchen a haven of warm, focused calm. A cook lifts a dormouse delicately, laying it on a tray lined with fresh laurel leaves to perfume the meat during the short journey to the triclinium. She carefully adjusts each rodent, ensuring legs are tucked neatly and tails curve in uniform arcs. Because presentation was everything when feeding men who measured worth in the subtle details of a dish. One servant whispers of chefs who experimented with exotic fillings, saffron, raisins, or crushed pistachios. The results sometimes delighted guests, other times earned sleepy scorn that drifted through Rome's gossip circles. In this kitchen, each cook treads a thin line between daring brilliance and quiet disaster. A soft laugh ripples among kitchen staff as they remember a senator's feast where a tray of dormice slipped from a boy's shaking hands, sending glistening rodents skittering across marble tiles like startled mice fleeing a cat. The senators heard the commotion, but the staff's quick recovery, replacing the lost dormice within minutes, meant no one's reputation suffered. It's a sleepy reminder of how much depended on the steady hands of those hidden behind the scenes. Historians still debate whether elite kitchens used special ovens to bake dormice or relied entirely on open fires. Tonight, you watch cooks rotate clay pots around low coals, each pot trapping heat and sealing in delicate flavors, with the quiet patience only long experience could teach. The kitchens are warm and close, filled with the scents of garlic, honey, and smoldering wood. Sleepy conversations drift between servants as they share stories of the senator's eccentric tastes. One demanded dormice stuffed with figs, another preferred his dormice flavored with bitter herbs and a drop of fish sauce. As the final trays leave the kitchen, you sense a collective exhale. Cooks lean on worn tables, wiping sweat from brows, their eyes soft with tired pride. They know every dormouse was perfect tonight, each one a quiet triumph of teamwork and dedication whispered into the shadows. A maid carefully sweeps crumbs from the stone floor, her broom's soft swish matching the kitchen's slow, sleepy heartbeat. The fires die down, coals glowing like tiny stars in the night's hush. You feel the warmth fading into a calm that settles deep in your bones, the kitchen's quiet pulse still echoing in your ears. As the final notes of activity fade, you drift back toward the triclinium, heart full of sleepy admiration for those whose skilled hands transformed Rome's tiniest rodents into feasts worthy of emperors, senators, and the soft, endless night. The quiet heat of the kitchen fades behind you as you slip once more into the triclinium, where senators recline deeper with each passing moment, their faces softened by wine and the gentle satisfaction of full bellies. Tonight, you drift into the strange and sleepy beliefs that swirled around dormouse meat itself. How Romans imagined these tiny rodents could heal, strengthen, or even stir passions beyond the reach of ordinary dishes. A maid brings a fresh platter, and a senator gestures lazily for another dormouse, murmuring to his neighbor that these roasted morsels were once prescribed for insomnia. He leans back, eyelids half closed, as if proving the point with every slow blink. Historians still argue whether dormice genuinely carried any medicinal properties, or whether their reputation was simply another flourish of elite Roman myth-making. You catch whispers of other supposed benefits. Some claimed dormouse fat, carefully rendered, could soothe aching joints when rubbed onto skin. Others swore a steady diet of dormouse meat kept one's mind sharp and memory strong. An ironic rumor, given the senators' sleepy smiles as they drift further into wine-fogged calm. A senator across the couches recounts a tale of a Roman physician who recommended dormouse stew to treat persistent coughs. His story winds through the soft air like smoke, earning slow nods of approval from men who look as if they'd struggled to remember their own names by morning. The details are hazy, but the comfort of the tale is unmistakable. Dormice weren't just food. They were quietly woven into the medicine of Rome's wealthiest. A maid nearby shares a softer belief. Mothers in the countryside fed dormouse broth to their children, hoping it would grant strength for winter's long nights. She laughs quietly, adding that when those children grew into men of means, they likely carried the memory of dormouse meals with them into the triclinium, where nostalgia and ambition mingled as thickly as honey and pepper. You watch a senator turn a dormouse over slowly, eyes gleaming as he describes how some claimed the meat increased virility. Though the senator's wife, he admits with a sleepy grin, found the idea more amusing than persuasive. His confession earns a ripple of drowsy laughter, the sort that warms the room even as it deepens the night's hush. Historians still debate whether these beliefs were widely held or confined to Rome's gossipy elite. Surviving texts mention dormice alongside recipes for restoring vigor and charm. But it's unclear whether physicians truly endorsed such remedies or simply nodded along to keep wealthy clients happy and generous. A soft anecdote floats across the couches. A senator's rival once bragged that his personal dormouse farm produced rodents so potent they cured melancholy in 3 bites. That claim spread like wildfire, turning his farm into the envy of Rome's elite, until a dinner guest complained the dormice tasted no different from ordinary ones. The rival's prestige sank like a stone, proving that even sleepy myths carried risks when woven into politics. You lean into your cushion as another senator describes how his grandfather insisted on dormice before every important Senate session. A clear mind, the old man would say with a solemn nod, comes from a satisfied belly, whether it worked or not. The senator's sleepy chuckles suggest many found the idea comforting enough to keep the tradition alive. A maid clears goblets, her slow steps blending with the lyre's soft, spiraling notes. She hums a lullaby said to be inspired by dormouse legends. Stories of tiny creatures who slept through winters, stirring only to grant good fortune to patient farmers. The tune floats over senators already half asleep, their heads nodding gently in time. Historians note how these sleepy beliefs extended beyond Rome's walls. In some rural villas, dormouse bones were buried near vineyards to ensure a sweet harvest. Others believed dormice, if carefully fed on certain herbs, absorbed their medicinal properties, turning the rodents themselves into edible elixirs of health. A senator sips wine infused with rose petals, voice low as he muses that perhaps the dormice's own long, drowsy hibernations inspired Rome's love of slow meals and unhurried nights. His words linger in the hush like the last glow of a dying candle, wrapping the room in soft agreement. As the lyre's music slows, you sink deeper into your cushion, eyelids heavy with the warmth of these myths. True or not, they add sleepy wonder to every bite of dormouse, weaving tiny rodents into Rome's grand tapestry of dreams, hopes, and the gentle magic of a feast where even medicine tasted like honeyed luxury. The triclinium drifts even deeper into stillness as wine ebbs from goblets and soft snores begin to pepper the hush. You breathe in the heavy warmth of the room, feeling yourself slip into stories of senators who turned every meal into a quiet spectacle. A sleepy golden age when culinary display was as important as any speech made in the Senate. Tonight, you see how Roman elites made dormice part of their grandest performances. A servant carries in a platter shaped like a miniature amphitheater. Dormice arranged on its terraced levels as if they're actors in a sleepy midnight play. Senators murmur with drowsy delight, eyes glinting at the clever presentation. It's a reminder that for Rome's powerful, a meal was never just food. It was a slow, luxurious show where each course deepened the drama. Historians still argue whether these extravagant displays were born of sincere appreciation for food or sheer competition among Rome's richest men. Some letters suggest senators planned weeks ahead, brainstorming how to outshine rivals with the most intricate artistic presentation. Whether it meant dormice posed like sleeping cherubs or nestled inside edible sculptures of temples and ships. You watch a senator lean forward, eyes bright despite his sleepy posture, describing the time he dined in a room where the ceiling opened like petals to reveal live songbirds fluttering over platters of roasted dormice. His voice softens to a near whisper as he recalls the gasp of his guests, the hush of awe that fell as tiny feathers drifted like snow over golden plates. A maid clears her throat shyly, sharing a tale of an ambitious feast where each dormouse was served on a gilded spoon balanced on crystal goblets, lit from below by oil lamps so their crisp skins glowed like tiny suns. She laughs sleepily at the memory of guests leaning so far forward to admire the effect they nearly toppled off their couches. You learn how chefs employed tricks like sprinkling edible gold leaf over dormice to catch candlelight, or arranging them among fresh flowers to make every platter a miniature garden. In one sleepy anecdote, a senator's guests found dormice hidden in pastries shaped like laurel crowns, squealing in surprise when the first crisp tail peeked from a flaky shell. Historians note that these displays weren't merely for fun. They quietly declared a host's wealth, creativity, and subtle mastery of Rome's social codes. In a world where a senator's reputation could soar or crumble on a single night's impression, culinary theater wasn't just a flourish, it was survival. A server recounts a story passed down through kitchen halls. The time a senator tried to impress guests with dormice arranged on a model chariot. But the chariot's wheels stuck in melted cheese, trapping dormice mid-race and turning what was meant to be a triumph into a sleepy comedy of sliding rodents. The senator spent weeks repairing his image, the story drifting through Rome with the soft persistence of a lullaby. One senator dozes as his neighbor recounts a quieter kind of culinary display. Feasts where simplicity itself became the performance. Dormice served on plain wooden plates, unadorned but perfectly roasted, their tender meat shining with honey glaze. Guests left speaking in hushed tones of the host's confident restraint. A sleepy power move proving true prestige needs no ornament. A maid drifts among the couches, collecting plates and whispering the stories behind each dish. She explains how dormice roasted in hollowed bread loaves stayed warm longer. The scent of herbs sealed inside like a soft secret released only when the crust cracked open before guests' sleepy eyes. The soft notes of the lyre continue to swirl, each chord landing like a feather among senators lulled into dreamy admiration. They recline with quiet satisfaction, eyes drooping not only from wine, but from the sensory lullaby of perfectly staged dormouse dishes. Each bite a reminder of a host's subtle genius. Historians still puzzle over the precise origin of Rome's grand culinary displays, debating whether they evolved from earlier Etruscan feasts or were inspired by lavish Eastern banquets glimpsed through trade and conquest. But tonight, you sense their true source. The universal, sleepy desire to delight, surprise, and gently outshine those who share your table. You nestle deeper into your cushion as the final platters are carried away, lamplight winking on their polished surfaces. The triclinium breathes with slow contentment, each senator floating in the sleepy glow of a night when dormice weren't just food. They were stars of a quiet, sumptuous performance. Proof that even the smallest creatures can inspire grand dreams. The triclinium lies cloaked in a soft, golden haze as senators stretch like cats, sinking deeper into cushions, their eyelids fluttering with each warm, perfumed breath of the room. Tonight, you drift into the hush of scholarly debate, where historians and food lovers alike argue softly through the ages about dormice. How common were these delicate morsels really? And did they truly reign supreme on every senator's table, or are the stories sleepy exaggerations born of gossip and envy? You sense the quiet tension of old arguments as a senator shifts, eyes twinkling as he recounts how his family always served dormice at winter banquets. But another senator counters with a slow shake of his head, insisting dormice were rare luxuries even in Rome, reserved for feasts marking victories or imperial birthdays, not sleepy Thursday dinners like tonight. Historians still argue over ancient texts mentioning dormice. Did references to their preparation mean they were a staple, or were they symbols of elite excess sprinkled through cookbooks to dazzle readers? One scroll lists dormouse recipes alongside common stews and breads, suggesting they appeared more frequently on wealthy tables than some believe. But other documents hint that only the truly powerful could afford the endless supplies of acorns and honey needed to fatten rodents properly. A maid pauses by your cushion to whisper her own theory. That dormouse stories grew with each retelling, senators boasting they ate them more often than they did, like modern tall tales of luxury vacations or impossible dinners with famous friends. You smile sleepily at the idea of Rome's elite trying to outdo each other with dreamy fictions of dormice feasts that never happened. A senator leans into his goblet's rim, voice low, as he recalls a letter from a provincial governor who admitted he'd never tasted dormouse, lamenting how far from Rome he felt in that lack alone. His words drift like soft mist, hinting that perhaps the dormouse's fame outpaced its actual presence. More idea than daily dish, yet powerful enough to stir longing across the empire. You hear sleepy murmurs of scholars' debates. One school believes dormice were so embedded in upper-class culture that cooks kept gliraria in every villa kitchen, while another insists dormice became symbols precisely because they were rare, appearing only at the most important gatherings, lending them a sleepy mythos that grew in every retelling. Historians still puzzle over archaeological evidence, like fragments of gliraria found in country estates miles from Rome, suggesting even provincial elites adopted dormouse keeping as a status marker. Yet records of some senators importing dormice by cartload for single banquets imply the rodents' scarcity. Each shipment like a quiet trumpet blast announcing a host's power. A sleepy anecdote floats through the couches of a senator who claimed he trained dormice to climb to his guests' hands when called, impressing everyone, until a rival pointed out he'd simply stuffed cheese in his visitors' sleeves. The tale drifted into Rome's gossip networks, adding a dreamy layer to dormice legends that outlasted any facts. Another senator gently describes the quiet symbolism of dormice. Small, slow creatures that hibernated half the year, waking only to feast. A sleepy metaphor Romans admired and perhaps envied. For senators who rose and fell on every rumor, the idea of curling up undisturbed for months must have seemed an impossible luxury. You sense how these debates weave into the room's soft breath, each senator holding personal truths about dormice. Some swearing they tasted them weekly, others admitting they glimpsed them only in older men's tales. This dreamy uncertainty gives dormice their lasting power. Tiny creatures flickering between fact and fable like shadows in lamplight. The lyre's song flows slower, each pluck settling like dewdrops on the hush. Senators sink deeper, some smiling sleepily as they remember grandfather's stories, others frowning faintly as they question whether those tales ever matched reality. Historians agree on one thing. Real or exaggerated, Dormice's legend grew so vast it changed how Romans measured opulence, ambition, and culinary triumph. Tonight, you see how the sleepy debates themselves became part of the dormouse's quiet legacy, lingering in every candlelit feast and every soft argument whispered into the warm night air. As the triclinium breathes in a slow, unified sigh, you sink into your cushion, comforted by the sense that some mysteries, like the truth behind Rome's love of dormice, are best left to drift in the soft, endless twilight between history and dream. The triclinium hums with a deep, contented quiet as senators recline, with eyes half closed, bellies full, and the soft glow of oil lamps reflecting in their sleepy stares. You drift into the gentle comedy of Rome's satirists, who turned dormice from elite delicacy to the butt of sly jokes and whispered barbs. Proof that, even at the empire's grandest tables, humor slipped in like a cat beneath the banquet couches. You hear a slow, amused murmur ripple across the room, as a senator recites lines from an old poem mocking senators so obsessed with dormice they ordered more for their kitchens than soldiers for their legions. His sleepy grin widens as his audience chuckles, heads bobbing in drowsy agreement that no senator ever lost sleep over spending too much on tiny rodents. Historians still argue whether Rome's love for dormice tipped into open parody because of the sheer absurdity of such a small creature commanding so much wealth, or whether poking fun at dormice offered satirists a safe way to mock powerful men without risking harsher punishment. After all, mocking a senator's taste in dormice was safer than mocking his political stances. You lean back as a maid recounts an ancient satire about a pompous senator who bragged his dormice were twice the size of a neighbor's, only to be undone when a guest discovered they were stuffed with sawdust and spices to fake plumpness. The triclinium bursts into soft laughter, the kind that settles warmly in the chest and drifts into the night like sleepy fog. A senator, voice thick with wine, recalls a satirical play staged in the Forum where actors wore floppy dormouse costumes, squeaking exaggerated squeals every time a line mentioned senators' gluttony. The audience roared, both at the sight of men in furry outfits and the familiar sting of recognizing their leaders' foibles. Proof that in Rome, humor and politics napped in the same bed. Historians note these satires hinted at a deeper truth. Rome's ruling class was seen as soft and indulgent, more concerned with dainty dishes than with defending the empire's crumbling borders. Dormice became symbols of sleepy decadence, an easy shorthand for everything outsiders found ridiculous about the city's elite. A soft story drifts across the couches of a senator, so protective of his dormouse recipe, he hired guards to stand outside his kitchen during every banquet. Satirists seized on the rumor, turning it into jokes of senators treating cooks like generals and dormice like state secrets. The image stuck, haunting even the sleepiest corners of Roman gossip. You watch the sleepy mirth glisten in senators' eyes as they trade quieter jabs. That the fastest way to an emperor's favor was through a roasted dormouse, or that Rome would never fall as long as its senators kept one hand on their goblet and the other on a stuffed rodent. These jokes drift like soft lullabies, bonding powerful men through shared amusement at their own excess. A maid giggles softly while recounting how satirical graffiti once appeared in the Subura, Rome's bustling lower-class neighborhood. A drawing of a dormouse wearing a laurel crown, captioned, "The True Emperor of Rome." Even today, historians puzzle over whether the image mocked the senators, the emperor, or both. But everyone agrees it captured something sleepy and true about the city's obsessions. Historians still debate how seriously senators took these jokes. Did they roll their eyes with sleepy indulgence, or bristle at the idea their power could be reduced to the size of a crispy rodent? Surviving letters hint at both reactions. But tonight you sense the gentle, conspiratorial laughter of men who know self-mockery keeps rivals closer and guests more loyal. The liar's soft notes tangle with these whispered jokes, turning the triclinium into a dreamy cocoon of music and humor. Even as lamplight fades to a soft amber glow, the gentle laughter lingers, like the warm embers of a fire refusing to die. You settle deeper into your cushion, heart lightened by the knowledge that even in the grandest halls of empire, senators recognize the sleepy absurdity of building prestige on roasted rodents, and that humor, like honeyed dormice, help them savor the sweet, fleeting warmth of each quiet night. The triclinium grows hushed and dreamy as lamplight gutters low, shadows curling up the marble walls like drowsy cats. You settle into the final sleepy chapter of this night, slipping into the slow unwinding of Rome's tastes. How senators' love for dormice faded quietly, replaced by new fads as the empire's palate shifted along with its fortunes, until these tiny rodents slipped from plates into the warm mists of memory. A maid collects empty platters with slow, reverent movements. Each dormouse now only a sweet, sleepy ghost of honeyed skin and tender stuffing. Senators lean back, eyes lidded, their minds floating beyond the soft glow of the triclinium as talk drifts to new dishes capturing Rome's imagination. Peacock tongues, lamprey pies, or game birds trussed with bright silk ribbons. Historians still argue what led to dormice's decline. Some believe Rome's growing contact with eastern provinces brought bolder, spicier flavors that made the subtle sweetness of roasted dormouse feel quaint. Others suspect the shifting tides of political chaos and economic strain made the delicate luxury of raising gliraria impractical, forcing even the wealthiest kitchens to abandon the sleepy tradition. A senator's voice weaves through the hush, remembering his father's stories of grand feasts when every table boasted bowls of glistening dormice. He sighs softly, head tipping back to watch the lamplight tremble on the ceiling, admitting he hasn't tasted one in years. Around him, other senators nod in quiet nostalgia, eyes reflecting the soft ache of vanished comforts. You hear stories of cooks who once specialized in dormouse recipes, forced to reinvent themselves as masters of goose, boar, or imported seafood. One sleepy tale drifts of a chef who tried to revive dormice at a grand wedding banquet, only for guests to turn up their noses, calling the dish old-fashioned, a relic of their grandfather's boastful nights. A maid shares the quiet rise of new symbols of power. Intricate sugar sculptures, shimmering gelatins, or enormous roasts paraded on silver wagons. Dormice, once the soft heart of Rome's culinary showmanship, seems small and provincial by comparison. Tasty, yes, but too humble for an empire hungry to prove itself through ever bigger, richer spectacles. Historians still find scraps of menus scrawled in fading ink where dormice appear alongside dishes from distant shores. African pheasants, Persian spices, or oysters carried on ice from Gaul. These lists suggest a moment when dormice lingered, almost forgotten on the edges of banquets now dominated by foods signaling Rome's growing ambitions and perhaps its looming excess. You imagine dormouse farmers quietly shuttering their gliraria, the soft rustle of straw as the last fattened rodents scurried free into nearby forests, their sleepy squeaks fading as Rome's appetite turned elsewhere. The triclinium breathes with a slow, final sigh, senators reclining deeper as if aware they dine at the twilight of an era. The lyre's last chords drift low and languid, each note curling through the hush like a final dream of nights when dormice glistened under golden lamplight, proving a senator's power without him needing to speak. The soft rustle of togas shifts through the room as the musicians lay down their instruments, the triclinium settling into a silence deeper than sleep. A maid lights one last candle, its tiny flame dancing across empty plates and slumbering senators' faces. You feel the weight of the night, the quiet knowledge that tastes change, and even the softest symbols of status can slip away like shadows at dawn, leaving only stories murmured in the dark. Historians agree on this. As dormice faded from feasts, their legend grew. They became sleepy symbols of Rome's indulgence, sweet echoes of nights spent measuring power in tiny, honey-glazed bites, reminders of how empires don't just fall with swords and sieges, but with small shifts in desire and delicate meals drifting out of fashion. The air grows still, warm with the memory of vanished feasts, the last breaths of senators sighing through the triclinium like the softest breeze. You nestle into your cushion, heart calm, mind full of dreams of tiny creatures who once ruled Rome's grandest nights, proof that even the smallest things can shape a world. Then slip quietly into the dark. Let your breathing soften. Each inhale slow and easy, like the gentle drift of lamplight across sleeping senators' faces. Feel the hush of the triclinium settle around you, warm and quiet, carrying the comfort of stories whispered through the softest shadows of ancient Rome. Imagine the last echoes of music fading into the night, each note a feather landing on still air, every dream cradled in the safe, silent embrace of moonlit marble halls. Let your mind wander through memories of tiny dormice curled in gliraria, soft sighs of senators drifting across candlelit tables, the comforting glow of hearths warming sleepy kitchens. Release the weight of the day with each exhale, letting thoughts slow like the final pluck of a lyre, until you float in a calm darker than midnight and gentler than honeyed wine. Know that you are safe here, wrapped in the warmth of forgotten stories, your breath steady, your heart light. The world outside paused until morning's quiet return. Drift softly now, and let dreams carry you deeper into sleep, where every small wonder whispers you are loved and at peace. Sweet dreams.